And then, and I'll show you this in a sec when I show you the layout, we'll have an area, a seating area for people with lived experience, where they can sit down. It's near the buffet, and we can, it usually works sort of quite well when MPs who are doing the networking and milling around can be kind of brought over to that area, and chat to people with lived experience. But obviously, we would want to work with whatever organisation member of CRA has brought the person with lived experience, because I used to be at Age UK as the stories manager, so I kind of want to be there with that person and look after them and do the relationship management and all that sort of thing. So it's really up to I think the CRA member organisation to say exactly how they want it done.
Okay.
But we're certainly having options.
Yeah, I mean, there's somebody that I interviewed for our social media, for our Instagram channel. I run interviews each month. Sometimes it's with our members, and other times it's with service users. But there is one particular person I've got in mind who said something about how surgeons he'd had throat cancer, and he was so positive in this interview. I just want to find the quote that he gave. Just bear with me, because it had such an amazing engagement when we posted it. Right, he said, "The surgeons took my cancer away, but my speech and language therapy team gave me my life back."
Oh wow, that is,
and
isn't it?
Yeah.
It really gets you. Yeah, and that's
So,
kind of,
I mean, I know he does speeches for other like cancer groups. I think we've got him doing something for us shortly too. So I just wonder whether he might be a great advocate.
Sounds amazing. What do other people think? Yeah.
I mean, there is more of the. I mean, I just kind of do sound bites with these people. Just bear with me. I'll just grab some more. I've lost him now. Hang on. Right.
Saved me my life back, is you can't get a better quote than that, really.
No, he said, "I've received so much help from my speech and language therapy team over the past year, from being taught how to speak again after having my voice box removed to ongoing help with daily care. The speech and language therapists are always there for me. I can't thank them enough for all that they do." Then he talks a bit about his experience, about I can't shout, so to be heard at a party or somewhere noisy is impossible. I tend not to bother to speak. I smile and wave instead. Since having speech and language therapy, I've presented at conference and sung with the Shout at Cancer Laryngectomy Choir, which I thought I'd never do. To raise awareness, I regularly post on social media, and he's got this website called Life After Larry. He's on Instagram. His name's John Organ. Let's just look. He said a year ago I hadn't heard of laryngeal cancer or a laryngectomy. It's life-changing, but not life-ending. After surgery, 2 shots of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and speech and language therapy, I'm now down as no evidence of disease. I can plan my new life, a happy life, to help others and light the path they have yet to tread. So I don't know if he would consider doing it. I'd need to talk to our policy leaders, our public affairs lead as well, because they might already have people in mind that they want to approach, but I don't know if that is something that appeals.
I mean, let's ask the group. Does anyone have a view on that they want to share, or other similar people with lived experience that jump out? What do you think, Nikki? Well, I think it sounds great. Anyway.
Okay. All right. No, I just thought I'd throw it out there because
I'm
aware of these people, and just that quote, you can't get much better than that. Somebody actually saying thank you for the rehab they've had. So,
for sure.
I'll go
Absolutely.
back. Yeah, I'll go back to our my colleagues in our public affairs team and see where they've got to with their plans, and then we might come back to that.
Brilliant. Well, listen, everyone, because Josephine's just touched on it. So I'll show you the rough layout. This is the room, by the way. So just have that kind of in mind. Yes, it's one of those stuffy old House of Parliament rooms, and it won't have any of those tables. So this is kind of the layout that we're thinking. So you can see where the catering buffet bit is in the top left corner. So we've got the lived experience seating meet and greet kind of area there. So obviously, if people want to come and just want to go and kind of sit in that area, and then we assign someone to look after them, and they're just chatting to MPs, that'd be amazing. And obviously, yeah, the stage for speeches is a fixed part of the room, and we know that the kind of running order, we have to ask all the politicians to give their speech, and they like to have their photo taken, all that kind of thing. So hopefully we've got our three themes, our three shifts, different stages on there. The tables aren't to scale. I'm not quite sure how big they're going to be, but this is just a representation based on what the venue's provided to us. We are going to have our Alice's Road to Recovery, just a little pull-up banner and a QR code so people can scan it on their phones and do it either there or later on. And then we're going to have various different sort of networking tables so people can grab a drink and something to eat and then sort of chat around the tables. We're having our standard photo wall, so that'll just have the CRA logo on it, kind of on repeat. And then, I think we've probably all been to these parliamentary events where the MP nips in, does a selfie in front of the photo wall, and then off they go, but may or may not grab a sandwich. So that's that's a win for us if they put it on social media. And then there's various other marketing opportunities in terms of pull-up banners that we can have kind of around the entrance and positioned at strategic points around the room. It's a good idea to have, yes, a one-page policy briefing, but also some kind of marketing material, and Nikki's gonna talk about that a little bit more in a sec. And then hopefully we're going to have a TV in the room so that we can play possibly a carousel with key messages, key stats, maybe some quotes from people with lived experience, like that one you just quoted, Josephine. That'd be an amazing one to have on as part of a carousel. And then yeah, that's it. So the food in the corner. Are there any questions about the room layout? Is that all fairly clear and straightforward? Yeah. Okay, so that's the room, as I say. Imagine that without any tables and chairs, and just with some little kind of cocktail tables and the catering tables sort of by that top left window. So Puge, that's our policy colleagues, did have a workshop on this, and this is the sort of thing that they were talking about having in the room. So, you've probably been to conferences and events or had stands where people have pledge cards. So they had an idea for that to go with the photo wall. Photographer will be at the event doing candids, but also, stuff by the photo wall. We'll have a videographer doing social snippets, hopefully little short interviews with people with lived experience and other people giving speeches. And then we want to do some sort of carousel, perhaps to show on the TV in the corner, and then that could double as social media content as well. Our press and PR team can put together like a local press release template for any MP turns up and wants to do a little story on their website or for their local paper. As to whether there's a news hook for more than that, well, John Ryan's going to be presenting to us in a minute, so maybe we can ask him. But yeah, it depends if we've got any new research or anything in particular, any particular asks or polling, etc., that we've done by that point. No plans to do that at the moment, but you know, we'll see if budget becomes available for that. And then in terms of collateral, policy will produce a one-page briefing, which will be given out to every MP who turns up. There's talk of some sort of leaflet, some sort of collateral, something that gets across a bit of the patient voice, a bit of the case for rehab, speaking back to those messages we spoke about earlier. And you know, a bit of merch, because everyone likes a free pen. And we have these, don't know if you can see this, like they're very small actually, they're pin badges. They say Rehab Champion on them. So we'll be giving those, and they've got magnetic backs, so they're suitable for people with impairments, because you don't have to fiddle around with a pin. So we can be giving away those, and it's just in case I didn't mention it before, it's everything is CRA branded or not branded. So we're not doing any individual branding for any of our organisations. It's all kind of under the CRA banner for that. Does that all make sense? Is that all? Okay, I can't see anyone's hand up, so you have to pop it in the chat if you want to ask a question, or just shout. Okay, if we've got no questions, I'm just going to hand over to our head of creative, Nikki Forbes, who is going to take us through a little bit of creative ideation, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Thanks very much. Over to you, Nikki.
Thank you very much, Tamsin, and I'm going to try to share my screen now. So let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. That was all very clear, Tamsin, but let's see if I can get to my. Oh, right, have we got it there? Is it there? Share. How do I get this to share, Tamsin?
Oh, if you go into Teams,
and
just to the left of the leave button, don't press that. It's a button, an upwards arrow that says share.
Oh.
And if you click on that, you'll then get you'll get an image of your screen.
Lovely. I just need to find myself. Right, can you see this?
Right, we can see that. Thank you, Nikki.
You can see that? Okay, let's see if we can run that from the beginning. If I can get this to run for you. Right. Okay, so what do we have here?
You might want to go just click it in presentation mode.
Presentation, presenter. There you go. Is that it? No. What's going on here? Right. That's not doing that, is it? From the beginning, let's try that. There you go.
Lovely.
There. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, we're there.
Well, beautiful, beautiful, fabulous. Okay, right. So, hello. Yes, I'm Nikki from the creative team at the CSP, and I thought I'd just run through. Everybody here has a considerable amount of experience. I was listening to you all chatting and thinking, gosh, how do I present this? So, I'm going to run through this. And hope I'm not talking at some weird level where you go, well, of course we know that, you know, don't teach your grandmother to suck eggs, but also not where I'm talking some kind of gobbledygook either. But really, this is just a chat about what to think a bit more about what we can do about presenting some kind of collateral, some kind of product. We'll work on social media things and physical things like leaflets and things like that. So I thought I'd just run through a few bits and pieces that we've done recently and try to sort of get our ideas going. We might not come to any conclusion today, but I just thought a few ideas to sort of think maybe laterally about what we're trying to do with rehab. So, okay, this copy to follow, etc. No, there's not going to be another copy to follow. This is an example of bad copy design. So here we are. Here we have some bullet points and some lists and some stuff. And so what we find here is, although these are probably very important points, it's not actually very attractive to look at. So we were, Tamsin and I and other members of the team were working on some bits and pieces for the Labour Party conference last year, and we needed a way to make some points about rehab attractive. And make you want to have an interest in the leaflet. So we could give this leaflet out like this, and you know, you probably just stick it in your pocket and throw it in the bin later on. I certainly would. So with how do you make something, a bit of collateral, someone want a bit of collateral? So it's all very well giving out a leaflet with a lot of very worthy words on it, but what makes people sit up and take notice? So here's a way to do things. You select down to a series of things that you might be interested in telling people about. What's the top 5 things that you really need to get across to, say, a politician or a punter or whatever? So what you could do is create a leaflet that has a few different sides to it and has some important facts, as you can see. Key headlines like thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, and thing 4, combined with some visual elements, and given a kind of cutout shape, could make it quite interesting. Certainly better than a tedious list, even though, in fact, if you look at it, it's a tedious list. It's just cut down to the key things that you really want to say and given a kind of visual treatment. So it's kind of, I want to try to sort of think about how we think the visuals and what we want to give someone. Would someone be happier to receive something like this in their hand than a fairly straightforward A5 flyer? So what we did here with Tamsin and the team is we had a list about saving money, or what we could do if rehab works really well. What could we do to save money? And here's on the right hand side, there's a list of things that you can do, some really key things about rehab. So what we did on the left-hand side is thought, what can make someone really interested in this product? So we designed the leaflet, the flyer, those few bullet points to look like a wallet. We designed it to have fake money sticking out of the top, and we had it cut out with a metal cutter to look like money there. And the piece of paper folded up looked like a wallet. So you could just chuck those around on the floor, on chairs. And human nature is that you kind of, well, my human nature would be to, oh, there's a wallet with some money, I'm going to pick it up. And so that's instantly got your attention. It's made you want to pick the product up. It's not been foisted upon you by someone else. So just leaving these laying around at a venue was very, very successful. So you open the wallet up and you've got your key message there. One key message: let's stop wasting money. Isn't that the key thing you want to get across? We can talk a lot about rehab and about the advantages and benefits of it, but really what we want to get across to the politicians was stop wasting money. Then as you open the product up, like the picture on the right hand side, then you get drill down to some of the key detail. So what you've done here is you've led someone in with the wallet, the key message, and then some good facts. By the time they've opened that wallet up, they get the sort of the kind of the trickery of it, and then they'll really take notice of the messages that are on there. In fact, the Labour Party took so much notice of the wallet that the third picture there is the Department for Work and Pensions, who then later re-originated our idea and came up with their own wallet that looks remarkably like the one that we've designed here on the left-hand side. So that picture number 3 is actually the Labour Party's rework of what we originally did. So clearly they thought that worked. So that's I'm trying to think of how we can come up with something that hits the spot for this important meeting you've got coming up. How about this? Do you all remember these from school? The fortune teller things. Something like this is a simple device that's a physical thing that gets you interested because it just reminds you of childhood. What does me reminds me of childhood in the playground. So what you have here, this would be a good device again for a list, but it's a bit different in as much as it gives you some options. The important thing about this is that it gives the person who is asking go to red, go to blue, yellow, green, whatever. They have that choice. So then they can start to find out. And as you remember, as you would open these up, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would lift, as you open the flap up, you would lift it up again, and it would give you another choice, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4. You open up it again, and there's a bit more detail inside. So this could work, for instance, one of these 4 could be rehab. With rehab, one could be hospitalization, one could be home help, another one could be doctor's surgery. I don't know, something like that. So then you choose that, you open it up, it gives you a bit more detail. So what kind of route do you go down? So it kind of gives you some thought processes as to what would be good for you to do with rehab, without rehab, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking along those lines. Snakes and ladders. Again, it's one of those things where you can see where you could go right, and you can see where you could make turnings where you could go wrong. So if we're getting rehab right, you're going up that ladder and you're going further and further, getting fitter and fitter from a rather unfit position down at number 1 up to the fabulously fit number 100. But the way you could look at this is there are things where the doctor recommends rehab. You go to the right rehab. They recommend an occupational therapist or whoever it is, and you're climbing the ladder. But they could also show where you could get the wrong advice, or you don't turn up for your appointment and you slide down that slippery slope again. This is something that could be a big presentation at an event. It doesn't have to be something that you might find in your compendium of games at home. This could be something really big, about sort of 4 foot wide, 4 foot square, that is a really visual thing that can lead people in. So then what you'd do is you would craft the text that goes on there that would that give the chance for the person who's viewing it to visually understand how things can go wrong and how things can go right. So just thinking of other ways to do that. What about this? Another one from the school kids' days. It's not all about the playground, but the Rubik's Cube, for instance, something like that. We're not talking about paper collateral, we're talking about a product. A lot of the times you might go to a health conference and they'll give out stress balls. They're as a cheap and quick way to do a bit of promotion. But if you're thinking about how to solve a puzzle, how do you get rehab embedded in everything, then if you had something like a simple Rubik's Cube, you can get them with the 6 faces, or just the much easier to solve 4-face ones, which I'd recommend. Then you could get these with some kind of imagery on it that you turn to get into the right position, or a message. So it could be an image on one side, it could be a message on the other side, and then that forces you to get engaged and to physically do something. And it's a product that you would take with you, you might show to other people. So this is a different way of still doing a promo. In the end, we're still talking about just persuading people to be interested in and take on board the concept of rehab. But it's how do you do that? How do we come up with something that is not just a list, that is a creative way to present your case and for it to really hit home and make a difference. So it's not only just to do, and I'm sure John will talk to you presently about the wording of a product, but it's not all about the product itself. It's about how you say it. So harking back to the wallet idea that we said earlier, where he said, let's stop wasting money, kind of key message. But the key message the actual messages sit behind that. But the key message is the one that you want for people to instantly get into the head, and with a fraction of a second that they understand that. So as an example, I was asked some years ago, there was a department, a physiotherapy department, that was going to be they were going to slash some physiotherapy departments, and we were going to say, well, what can we say about that? Please don't cut our physiotherapy department, or local people will struggle without physiotherapy, and this, that, and the other, and all sorts of phrases like that. I just felt they just didn't really hit home. You needed something really hard hitting, and I come up with a simple phrase like this. no physio, no way. Now here's something that's brutally short, brutally to the point, and it gets across what we wanted to say. Don't close our physiotherapy departments. So here we have brutal wording, brutal color scheme, and we haven't got. We could have a convoluted story about how the physios, how they sort of help the elderly to stay fit or whatever, and then have a picture of someone in a hospital ward, on a Zimmer frame being looked after. But instead, we've got a pair of scissors here which says cuts straight away. So the visuals really position what you want to say immediately. So I think what we need to think about now is, what do we want to say? How do we want to say it? How can we say it succinctly? And what should we produce that makes people sit up and go, wow? Kind of along the idea of the wallet, but it could be a product, could be a physical product, could be a paper product. In the end, it also comes down to, how much money have we got? What size is the budget? Because the budget would determine what kind of product we can produce. And that's pretty much it from me. So I've been speaking away. Who knows? I might have had the microphone on silent all this time, but I hope not.
I'm glad to report we could all hear you. No, thanks, Nikki. That was just a really interesting look at the different ways you can, treat the same topic. Comments, Josephine, I'm going to go to first, who put your hand up. But any thoughts on those?
I did put my hand up, but I didn't mean to. But I did think it was a really great presentation. So thank you, Nikki. It was really, I thought there were some really lovely ideas there. I particularly like the fortune teller one. I could kind of see the colour scheme working with some of the political parties as well.
That's a good point. I like that.
But whether it would then end up in the bin after they played the game, obviously, because it's, a fragile object, and those things, I do remember they were used and used and used, and in the end they tore down the thing. So obviously the thickness of the paper or whatever we would use. I think the Rubik's Cube, again, in my experience of trying to play Rubik's Cube, I could never ever solve it. So even with the four cubes on each side, I'm still not convinced that anyone will actually get that. And I did wonder about the sustainability of it with plastic and that kind of thing. I can see that we might get criticised there. I quite liked the idea of the snakes and ladders, and I like the idea of that, but it's almost like you want to play the game. So if it's up on a wall, like you've got that in situ at the event, people can't take that away with them. Love the wallet. I think that's brilliant. Inspired. So yeah, they're my thoughts on that.
Thanks
you
very much, Josephine. That was really, really helpful. I'm going to go to Victoria now, who's also got her hand up.
I thought the wallet was brilliant as well, hence why it was stolen. The idea was stolen. I just wondered how much, just as an idea, how much do those, like the wallets, for example, just a different way of doing the leaflet, how much does that cost? Is it that you just do a few of them and just make I don't know what the costs are like for things like that.
Well, it's effectively an almost A4 flat sheet printed in colour both sides, so it's no different to a normal A4 flat sheet. The extra cost you have, it has to be folded, like any leaflet, it has to be folded, so you have the cost of folding a leaflet, which is negligible. The main cost is a metal cutter guide, that's just the shape of where the pound signs are at the top there, so they stick out at the top of the wallet. So that has to be, there's normally about 50 quid for one of those, and then the cost for the printer to stamp them out. And I think we only got about 500,000 of those done, something like that. It's not necessarily expensive. It's just visually strong. It's not a lot of cost to that.
It looks like it's expensive, like the design of it, but obviously it's just very effective.
Just paper leaflet.
Thanks.
I'm gonna hard stop us now so that we've got time to listen to John Ryan's presentation. John's just joined us. Hello, John. We're very much looking forward to your TED Talk. If anyone else has got any thoughts or questions, please could you either drop a message in our chat here on this meeting. Victoria and Samantha, who haven't spoken, if you let us know what your favourite merchandise is, that'd be amazing. Just pop it in the chat. Yeah, well, I'll circulate our thoughts afterwards, and we'll see where we go. We'll keep you up to date with developments. But thanks very much, Nikki. I can let you go now. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm going to stay and listen to John's presentation.
Oh, yeah,
I'm really interested, if that's okay. If you don't mind me being an interloper.
John, can I hand over to you to introduce yourself and do your brilliant TED Talk for us, please?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Tamsin. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for inviting me along today. Nice to see some of you again. Yeah, I'm going to just share my screen here. Okay. Everyone see that? Very good.
Yeah, we can
okay,
see.
so,
I can see that.
Great, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, just to start off with, I guess a terminology thing, so we're all on the same page. By elevator pitch, really, we're talking about that moment where you bump into someone important who carries a lot of influence, and you're trying to get your point across to them in a very little amount of time. So probably less than a minute in some occasions, 2 or 3 minutes if you're lucky. But really, it's about how can you make the most of that time so that they leave thinking a bit more about what you've got to offer. The reason I call it the art of avoiding no isn't just because I'm colossally lacking in ambition, though I probably am. It's really just about the fact that what you're pitching, if it's to, you know, a minister or to a chief executive or, you know, a potential donor, they're probably not going to be able to say yes there and then. All right, but they might say no if you annoy them or irritate them or confuse them, or you just leave them sort of bewildered as to what you're actually saying. So really what you're looking to do is get can I have some more information, or can I have a meeting, set something up, right? That's not a yes, but it's definitely not a no. A no leaves you no road to travel. A yes allows you, another meeting gives you that opportunity to get into greater detail, and that's where you can hopefully make your case. So I feel there's kind of three parts to an effective pitch. Has it gone blank for you? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm just having a few technical issues here.
I could see that. Know your offer.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be. Here we go. There we go. So what I believe are the sort of 3 keys to a successful pitch are to know your offer, to know your audience, and crucially to know when to stop. Now, this is something I've kind of built up over the last sort of 20 years, working firstly as a journalist and being pitched to quite a lot, and then as working in PR as someone who's doing a lot of pitching. But also outside of work, I used to do a bit of screenwriting, and did once find myself in a lift with a hotshot Hollywood producer, and I completely cocked it up. Now, if we've got time at the end, I'll talk you through that, and you can tell me what exactly I got wrong based on what hopefully I'll be telling you over the next few minutes. So it'll be interesting to see if you can work it out. But yeah, so the first thing really is to know your offer. What I think is the most useful way to do this is to develop what's known in the film world as a log line. This is a 25 to 50 words description of yourself. It's a really sort of brutal, cutting it back. Oh God, this simple description of your story. Only the information is absolutely essential to your story gets included. So you've got to be really tough on yourself. It's very easy in our line of work to think of all these kind of different points we want to make, you know, particularly around rehab, all these different parts where, you know, it could help with this, it could help with that, it could help with this. But if you've only got 30 seconds or, you know, potentially a minute, drill down into particularly what is it unique about that that's helping, that's going to help that person you're pitching to, and what are they going to take away? Why is it they're going to hear your offer over all the other offers that they get through during the day? Now, let's look at some examples just so you can see what these log lines might look like. Come off mute if you can, and just shout out if you recognise any films there.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yep, absolutely. First one, yeah. Second one. Shows I'm a bit more sort of lowbrow than this august gathering
The
here.
Hangover.
The Hangover, that's right, yeah. And the last one?
Shawshank Redemption.
Absolutely, yeah, Shawshank Redemption. So look, you can see there how with each of those, there could be a lot more detail. If they were trying to describe the film, they could talk about the location, or they talk about, all these other things, but that's not what the story is about. And so you really kind of cut to the quick and show what this is, what's the most important information there. So this is just an example of how you could apply this in a rehab setting. So my service has reduced admissions by 30% in the past 6 months, and by expanding it, we can cut those numbers even further. That's okay, right? It's okay. It's perfunctory. It does the job, but we'll come back to it later to see how that could be improved. And the way it could be improved really is to know your audience. Now, this isn't just about saying, okay, I recognise that guy. This is Stephen Kinnock. He's the minister for this, this, and this. Okay, it's more important to know what are the objectives they're working to. Okay, what is it that's keeping them awake at night? How can your offer be tailored in order to help them meet their needs? Because that's when it's going to connect. Important to have 2 or 3 different versions of what you're pitching, because you might be pitching the same thing to a minister, to a chief executive, to a finance officer, and they're all going to have slightly different needs. And so you need to tailor that to their needs. Crucially, what you need to do is make sure you're connecting on that emotional level. And so it's important to understand what are the words, what are the specific like buzzwords that are going to really grab their attention. You think about if you're in a crowded room and you hear your name said by someone on the other side of the room, even if they're not talking to you, your ears tune into it. We're sort of trained to do this sort of thing. And so what are the words that are going to help, whether it's hospital flow, and these are pretty sort of dull words, but they're important to the people that we're trying to pitch to. Hospital flow, discharge, length of stay, all these types of things. How can you get that into your pitch? If we go back to those examples that I showed you earlier, you can see really how that is contained there. So you think about this first one, it's a scary thriller. You're incarcerated, manipulative. Young cadet must confide in a manipulative killer. Okay, you get that sense of what they're trying to do there. That's going to connect with that audience who likes to go and be scared. Okay, the same goes for the bawdy comedy, second one up, groomsmen, drunken misadventures. And then the last one, drama audiences. They want to go and, be moved by a story. They want insight into the human condition. They want to feel their souls being nourished, redemption, decency. Okay, all these things there work for that audience, and so they're going to connect. So if they're reading that description in a newspaper, they're going to go, yeah, I'll go and watch that. If they're hearing it described that way. If we go back to the logline I came up with, rehab, that's not nourishing anyone's soul really at the moment. It did the job, but it's not really doing anything. So what we really need to do is look at some of these bit parts of it. It's 30% reduction in emissions. Well, who are those people? Okay, and by expanding it, we can cut these numbers even further. We can, or you can. So looking at here, we kept 600 older people out of hospital last year. We're already putting a face on that. Then, by funding our service, you can help even more people. You can help even more people stay in their homes this time around. Okay, help people feel good about the work they're doing. Okay, imagine an NHS chief exec at the moment, for example. Imagine some of the decisions they're having to make. Empower them. Make them feel empowered. They're probably feeling pretty powerless at the moment. Flatter them, make them feel good about the work that they can do, help them feel like they can change things for the better and not just constantly be making these sort of awful decisions. Okay, so you're more likely to connect with someone if you've done that with this person. But the reality is that if you come up with the perfect pitch, come up with amazing language, you've practiced this pitch, and you think actually this is spot on for this person, but you then don't know when to stop. You're probably going to undo all the good work. You've got to. We say in comms, don't we, that it's not about what you say, it's how it's heard. And moreover than that, it's really the context in which it's heard that influences how it's heard. And so if someone's rushing down a corridor and you've interrupted them, they may be okay with you interrupting them, but they don't want to be detained for long. So cut bait after 20 seconds, 30 seconds, get across your point and leave it there. If they're talking to someone else and you interrupt them, they're probably not going to receive it too well. But if you wait for a second and they see you respectfully waiting, and then you do your pitch, you're probably going to be received that bit better. It's really about kind of reading the room, and a lot of that's about their body language. If they're looking over your shoulder, if they're trying to get away from you, I think that's probably the moment to leave it. Because if you've done a really good pitch and they've agreed to take a further meeting or to get some more information, you've done your job, right? That is the moment to leave it. Okay. You're not going to get a yes. You may get a no. So that's the point to walk away. Because if there's one bit of advice I could leave you with, it's this: don't turn a pitch into a hostage situation. If you've done what you need to, do not detain them any longer. Let them go. Let them get on with their lives, because you're going to quickly get a no following on from that. Okay. So to recap, and it's been a very sort of whistle-stop tour, I know, but know your offer, know your audience, and crucially, know when to leave. Okay. So thanks for listening. There's where I'm on the social media. And so there's if anyone's got any questions, please let me know. And if anyone wants to get in touch, please do, because I'm very happy to sort of discuss this through. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, let me know.
Brilliant. I'm going to open it up. We've got sort of a few minutes left, either to questions or to hear John's anecdote about the Hollywood movie director in the lift.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Has anyone got any questions for John? Just pop your hand up. Well, it sounds like you were so clear and on point. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant. Wow. I never even heard of a log line. That's absolutely, really does make you think differently. So, you know, back to you, John, really for that anecdote about you in the lift.
Okay. So yeah, I'll get into this lift, right? And there is Sean Ryan, who was the, no relation sadly, but he was the producer of a film called Hot Tub Time Machine, which I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Very sort of bawdy American comedy, brash, very funny, if you like that sort of thing. And anyway, I get in there, and I had a few projects on books at that point, and I could have pitched any one of them, but I'd been pitching earlier that day a London-based crime thriller. I was really confident with the pitch, and I thought, God, I've got to take this moment, go for it. And I pitched him that. And he looks at me and he goes, that is a good, clean, fast pitch. And I'll always remember those words, because it was just like, that is a good, clean, fast pitch. And I thought, wow. And then he goes, have you got a one-pager? And I said, yeah, of course. And that's the one-page synopsis. It's got contact details, everything else. Give that to him. He goes, thanks so much. We shake hands. I get out the lift. I think, you idiot, what have you just done? And can anyone tell me what I got so badly wrong?
You didn't put your contact details on it?
No, those are on there. Think about the point 2 in what makes a good pitch. Know your audience. What did I pitch? A London-based crime thriller.
TV.
No, it was a film, but it was not in his genre, was it? So he produces these like gross out, bawdy American comedies, and I'm trying to do a low budget crime thriller set in London. So I never heard from him again, despite the fact he'd been a good pitch. It'd been a good pitch. He took my details, but he might have just been polite. He might have just trying to encourage a new writer. Yeah, I'm 6'3". We were in a lift. He might have just been scared, and he just took the details. But the point was, I was not helping him do his job. I did have a comedy I could have pitched if I'd been more prepared. So you always need to be prepared for those different opportunities that come up. Had I had that comedy, I obviously was okay at pitching, and maybe I'd have got the result there. But I mean, thankfully, I've only got the rest of my life to regret that, so it's fine, you know.
Look, we can have a whip round and we can fund that movie. So
thank you.
I'm going to go over to Victoria's got a question now.
I hadn't heard of a logline either. What would you use that for? Would that be on the pitch synopsis or something? Or
well, the key thing really with it is that it's your pitch. So when we went up to the Labour conference last year and had a stand there, it was very much around trying to get people to understand that there was a need to invest in rehab, particularly outside of hospital, because too many people were missing out, and it's having an impact on this, and this. And so by having these kind of 30 to 50 words log lines written, when MPs were coming to our stand or going past, or there was genuinely, you're running into people in lifts at a party conference or at events, we were able to just quickly give the offer there, give the sell about community rehab. and hopefully get them to either come to the stand or to agree to become a rehab champion or take more information. So this log line, you do write it, you hone it, you really work on it, but the really important part, and it's part of the kind of sell, is practice it out loud. Because we've all written incredible prose before, and then when we've said it out loud, there's either a clumsy phrase that we can't actually say very well, or it just sounds a bit corny. You know, it needs to be conversational, because it needs to be that kind of flowing thing that you can actually get across and feel comfortable in starting a conversation with. Sometimes it will be the start of a conversation that then turns into 5-10 minutes, and you can really get into the detail then. But often with particularly really important people, you're getting so little time. If you can get your sell across in 2 or 3 lines with a call to action, it'd be great if I could follow up with you. You know, that's what it is. So yeah, write it down, but practice it out loud.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And that sort of next steps bit to lacing at the end is quite important, isn't it? If you get that chance. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're very, very grateful to our guest speakers, both Nikki and John, who've given up their time to prepare this and be with us today. Thank you so much. And everyone else who's come and contributed their thoughts and ideas. It's been great to see you all. And please do feel free to send me any further thoughts and ideas by email. But we'll be in touch soon. Spending reviews on the 11th of June, and the 10-year plan will be coming out shortly after that. So we'll be doing joint comms around that. So I expect we'll be coming together to discuss that then. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.